Representative Longden, my heart aches listening to your story. It really does. And I'm sitting here thinking of all the people that we hear from. I've sat on the VA committee for 4 years, and all of the stories that we hear as lawmakers and members, and my heart aches. Dr. Punch, I am so glad that you brought those blood-stained tennis shoes. You know, and I'm sitting here listening to this whole story, and my mind goes back to when I was young. One of my first jobs was being a TV reporter, and being there at the moment of whatever catastrophe had happened, and standing there sometimes with my arms around a victim. My first news story was coming face to face with the first victim of suicide. I'll never forget it. I've been there at the scene of domestic violence. I've been there at suicides and homicides. And that's decades ago, but you never forget it. And so I've seen those bloodstained tennis shoes. I've seen women who will never be the same, women who will never come back, young people who will never come back either, for a variety of reasons. But listening to this entire conversation today brings it home that if we seriously, we've had a lot of discussions in this place, but if we seriously could make today different and come together on evidence-based research that allows us to look beyond the headlines, beyond the political power. And I get all the way down here to you, Dr. Henn, and I really am impacted by the fact that you actually are talking about a community that was able to bring shareholders to the table. And my question is, knowing how difficult of an issue this is, knowing how difficult it is to stand in a lot of the places that I've stood and watched the aftermath of all this, I just think there's light at the end of the tunnel. This is a heavy hearing. These are heavy, real things that happen to real people. But the question I have is, can you talk about the shareholders, the stakeholders, how in the world, with suicide prevention and gun safety, how in the world did doctors and gun owners and government officials who were actually at the table to be able to break through all these parameters and say, let's talk evidence-based and let's talk about getting someplace?
Thank you. I think it honestly began when many of us who are good at parsing data said, we need to show up at the shooting range. We need to show up at the gun shop and the hunting club to actually understand this issue. And vice versa, when gun owners said, we need data, we need to know what works. It's not typical for us to go to a healthcare coalition meeting, but we're gonna do it. And so by moving outside of our respective comfort zones, we've been able to find that common denominator, which is we are universally horrified by the fact that there are so many gun deaths in this country, and we all want our loved ones to be safe.
Let me stop you right there. And what happened when the opposing views came in? When the scene is unfolding and you've got dialogue and the opposing view comes in, what is it that actually went higher than the opposing view and kept people focused on breakthrough?
Trust. I mean, I remember the first time I went shooting with gun owners in Utah, and they told me, no side has a monopoly on grief. These issues, whether they're mass shootings or day-to-day toll of gun violence, what you've just described very movingly in your own experience, it doesn't matter how you feel about the issue of guns, it doesn't matter whether you own guns, there's that common horror, and that becomes a common hope. Because we can come together and say, we want people to be safe. That's one of the reasons people own guns. That's one of the reasons other people don't own guns. But if we can look for those evidence-based strategies and do so at times in a voluntary way, we can save lives.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you. I appreciate that we're actually having a hearing with light at the end of the tunnel on ways that we can actually supersede political power. So thank you so much to all of you and for all that you're doing. I appreciate it. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes for 5 minutes the gentleman from New York.
Thank you, Mr.